This is our last episode before we come off a vacation and start season 2 next week. Again, this is a Patreon episode. This one was uploaded to our Patreon members in June. And we discuss one of the few people that made it over Niagara Falls but couldn't make his last leap. I'm going to introduce you to the interesting person who was Sam Patch. So I didn't know about this guy until I watched Drunk Histories, and then I think like a week or two later, I was on Roadside America, and there's his name again, and I thought, I started doing some research, and I'm like, this guy, we got to do this guy. There's no paranormal to it. It's just, we got to do this guy. Welcome to the Patreon podcast.
Podcast of another Philly upstate.
Yes, if you are hearing this and you're not on Patreon, it's because we released it publicly. So, welcome to Unearthly Upstate. I am Mari.
And I'm Matthew.
And today we're going to talk about, well, the death of somebody, actually.
Mm-hmm. The death of Sam Patch.
Sam Patch. You may never heard of him, but he was a pretty big name when he was alive. Mm-hmm. And do you want to do the honors with the poem? Or
okay, sure.
Okay.
All right, now, Sam Patch was a famous guy, had a lot of articles written about him.
Oh, yes.
And he was well known. If he was alive today, he'd be on YouTube.
If he was alive today, he'd be like the top creative content provider on YouTube, and probably...
And so popular was he that people made poems about his death, and here's one of them.
Yes.
All right. Good people all, attendance give, and list with mournful brow. If you have any tears to shed, prepare to shed them now. Sam Patch is dead, that famous man. We ne'er shall see him more. He used to wear an old felt hat, with brim all torn before. His jacket was of iron gray, his heart was full of glee. They say he's killed by jumping off the falls of Genesee. Full 60 feet, they say he jumped, and struck upon his side. He sank beneath the roaring flood, and thus, Sam Patch, he died. That was from Providence Journal, November 26, Providence Journal, November 26, 1829.
1829, yes. Mm-hmm. Sam Patch was the first daredevil to jump Niagara Falls and survive. He was so famous at this time. There were songs, picture books, poetry, and plays were done about him. There was no mistake about him. Sam Patch was a celebrity. Sam Patch began his career by jumping over the falls while working in a mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. He would entertain his fellow child laborers by leaping into the falls near the mill. By the time he started his second career of this entertainment, he had already worked pretty much a full lifetime, if you think about it, yeah. By the time he was 20, he moved to New Jersey, where he continued to work his mills and also his falls jumping. Crowds began to gather to watch him jump. In early September 1827, as he tried to jump off the Passaic Falls in New Jersey, the police arrested him thinking he was attempting suicide. When he was released on September 30th, 1827, he made the jump. This 70-foot jump was the start of his professional jumping career. He wouldn't just jump off high falls. He also jumped off bridges, factory walls, and off ship's mast. I mean, pretty much he was trying for the highest jump he could get. All right. Yeah. August 11th, 1828, he dove 90 feet from the ship's mast into the Hudson River. 500 people had come to watch the jump, and the newspapers dubbed him the Jersey Jumper.
Oh, jeez. Nowadays, I could have other connotations.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But plenty of jumpers in Jersey and elsewhere.
Yes. His fame was growing so much that a local committee from Niagara Falls approached him to jump off the falls. But he would be the second attraction that day. They were also blasting a large boulder called Table Rock. And Sam Patch didn't like the idea he was going to be second billed to a demolition.
Oh, well, if you're going to risk your life jumping off falls, you're going to insist on first billing.
Exactly.
Because people are going to be, including the people who are conducting the demolition, are going to be standing from a safe distance.
Well, nowadays, I think if it was a daredevil like that and they said something like that, he's like, no, I can't do the jump after you blow up the rock. I won't know where all the debris is. No, Sam Patch didn't even think of that. No, he just didn't show up. Okay.
Didn't show up to his own event.
Yes. The demolition of the rock happened on October 6, 1829, but Sam did not appear. The next day, in rain, he climbed a platform that had been built on a cliff below Goat Island. He successfully jumped 80 feet into the falls. When he reached the banks of the river, he told a spectator, "There's no mistake in Sam Patch," which became one of his catchphrases. Oh. Okay. After that success, posters appeared around the area. Do you want to read the posters? These are amazing.
To the ladies and gentlemen of Western New York and of Upper Canada, all I have to say is this, that I have arrived at the falls too late to give you a specimen of my jumping qualities on the 6th. But on Wednesday, I thought I would venture on a small leap, which I accordingly made, of 80 feet, merely to convince those that remain to see me that with what safety and ease I could descend, and that I was the true Sam Patch, and to show that some things could be done as well as others, which was denied before I made the jump. I shall, ladies and gentlemen, on Saturday, next, October 17th, precisely at 3 o'clock p.m., leap at the Falls of Niagara from a height of 120 to 130 feet, being 40 to 50 feet higher than I leapt before, into the eddy below, on my way down from Buffalo. On the morning of that day, in the steamboat Niagara, I shall, for the amusement of ladies, doff my coat and spring forth from the mast, headed into the Niagara River. Now, the crowd for this leap was at least 10,000 people, and Sam entertained the crowd before this jump, posing upon the small platform and kissing an American flag before he jumped. He successfully made the second jump as well, and his celebrity status was set. Newspaper now dubbed him the Yankee Jumper. Went from Jersey Jumper to Yankee Jumper.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Claims were made that not even Daniel Boone would dare to jump the falls that Sam had. Sam made it known that he wanted to jump off the London Bridge in 1830, but instead he went to Rochester.
Yep. And from the Kinderhook Herald, November 5th, 1829. The notable Sam Patch has issued the following laudable bulletin from Rochester. I have to pause here. He sent this to like every newspaper in the area. I just happened to grab it from this one. Okay. All right. Another leap. Sam Patch against the world. Some things can be done as well as others. Sam Patch, is having returned from jumping over Niagara Falls, has such determined to convince the citizens of Rochester that he is the real Simon Pure by jumping off the falls in this village from the rocky point in the middle of the Genesee River to the Gulf below, a distance of 100 feet. This extraordinary feat will be performed on Friday the 6th of November next at 2 o'clock precisely in the afternoon. Sam assures the world there can be no mistake, and he goes the whole hog. And unlike too many politicians in present day, he turns no somersaults in progress. He goes straight as an arrow. He puts the jump off until after the election, out of regard to all parties. Let every man do his duty at the polls, and Sam will afterwards do his at the falls. If Sam does not jump, the money will be returned to those who give it. So there's no mistake.
No, there
How egalitarian of him. He didn't want people watching him jump. He wanted them to do their democratic duty and vote.
Do your civic duty, folks.
And then the next day, come and watch him jump.
And
yes.
support our democratic republic.
Yes.
The newspapers were there.
Yep.
The crowd was large, but not as large as it had been in Niagara. So Sam, upping his own showmanship, brought a bear with him. And he began his jump by tossing the bear into the high falls first. Now I wonder, the bear survived, okay, Sam did as well, but he felt that it didn't have the spectacle that he wanted.
And the funny thing was, as in my research, he wasn't the only person to use animals in their jumps over falls.
Oh my God.
There's a woman used her house cat when she went over Niagara in one of those barrel thingies. Mm-hmm. She tested it by putting her house cat in it first. So what is it with these people and their pets throwing them in the falls? Seriously.
A small bear.
A small bear. It was just a cub.
Oh.
And he would pick it up by the collar and throw it in there. He also had a fox. But he never would throw the fox in. Animal cruelty on top of everything else. Oh my God.
Is this Sam Patch's litmus test? Just to see if you can survive a falls jump?
Yeah, throw a bear in.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would be the one to have to fish out that bear?
Tell us, Sam, is it a solid or a base?
Okay. And then he planned his last jump for the year. Well, it would be his last jump ever. Mm-hmm. The posters that went up proclaim, Sam's last jump! Some things can be done as well as others. There is no mistake in Sam Patch. On the truth of this, he will endeavor to convince the good people of Rochester and its vicinity next Friday, November 13th at 2:00 p.m. Not a good choice of words or choice of date if you're superstitious. Friday the 13th has always been good to me. Mm-hmm. I've always had good news on Friday the 13th, so I can't say I believe in that.
Well, on the subject of the supernatural and ghosts and all that hauntings, I've never been superstitious. Mm-hmm. So, Friday the 13th doesn't bother me. In some cultures, it's unlucky. In some other cultures, it's lucky. It's a lucky number.
And we've always
like
had
the number 7 is.
And we've always
lucky.
had black cats, so,
Yeah. Well, you say, how black cats are unlucky? Well, I thought if I owned the cat.
Yeah. Well, they've owned us, but yes. Yeah. Anyway.
They showed up at our doorstep.
So here he is. He wasn't satisfied with that jump on the 6th, so he decided, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to do it on Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. I think he threw his bear in there as well, but the bear did survive.
The bear survived again.
The second time. So boats filled the water below the high falls with spectators. People lined the banks of the Genesee. The crowd was over 8,000 people. Sam, ever the showman, made a quick speech.
Napoleon was a great man and had conquered nations. Wellington was greater, and he had conquered Napoleon. But neither could jump the Genesee Falls. That was left for Sam to do.
He made his jump. Now, some people claimed he slipped off the platform. Some thought he was drunk. Witnesses do agree that his jump was not as graceful as the others. He either was spasmed or tried to correct himself during the fall. He hit the Genesee on his side. As the minutes passed, he did not emerge, and the crowd slowly dispersed.
Napoleon was a great man. Conquered nations.
Yeah, it's interesting. You read the different accounts, and some people say he was drunk. Some people say he slipped. Some people say he spasmed.
Didn't he accrue some kind of head injury before on a previous jump?
Yeah,
and maybe that caught up with him.
Probably. This guy was jumping mad, really.
And how old was he at this
22.
This point?
He was a young guy. He was a young guy, yeah.
Well, that was, young for nowadays, but she's back in the early 1800s, probably middle-aged.
Okay, true. And then this appears in the Kinderhook Herald, November 19th, 1829. Shocking event. Sam's last jump. Thousands collected yesterday to witness Sam's Patch last jump, as the bills expressed it. And what an awful leap it was. He never rose with life. A stage 20 feet high had been erected on the edge of the falls, which made the descent of about 120 feet to the surface to the water in the chasm below. Sam apparently lost his balance, struck the water in a sidelong manner, and disappeared to rise no more. Such a shocking result had a strong effect on the immense crowd. After waiting in breathless anxiety for some time, the multitude dispersed with feelings which can be better imagined than described. The corpse has not yet been found. Now we go into Elvis territory with Sam, because his body was not found.
Elvis.
Immediately.
Oh, okay. All right. Now that's where the legends of sightings of Sam Patch occurring.
People insisted he swam under the water and found this underground cave to hide in. People were seeing him all over the United States. There were people reported having drinks with him in the bar after this.
That might be something to that.
Yeah.
Sam knew his crowds were getting thinner.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed one last big jump as a send-off for his career. Because from here, where do you go?
Well, he wanted to go
Niagara?
to London.
Well, of course he wanted to go to London. But who knows whether or not he would have been allowed to do so.
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows, maybe he got a negative response.
Well, he was known to go ahead and do the jumps regardless and just spend the night in jail. So.
Right.
He didn't,
exactly.
Permits? I don't need a permit.
We don't need no stinking permits. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, people would see him everywhere after this. And I even read some newspaper articles where it was like opinion pieces were sent in about, I know Sam Patch is alive, So like I said,
these sightings happened all over the United States.
Yes, yeah. And so, like I said, here we're going to Elvis territory,
And who's to say, maybe he did, fake his own death in that way, because the body was never found.
It was.
Was it?
It was found.
Okay, well, there you go then. It was found.
Yep, on St. Patrick's Day, the next year. A farmer chopped a hole in the ice of the Genesee River near Charlotte, New York, and the corpse of Sam Patch came to the surface. But even with the discovery of his body, fans insisted he was still alive.
Evil floats up to the surface. Bleh.
Look at this poor farmer. He's getting water.
Zombified. There's no mistaking Sam Patch.
Oh, God.
I'm the original, baby.
He turns into Bruce Campbell.
Groovy. Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, so
it scares the crap out of that poor farmer.
I was just trying to get some water. Oh my God.
I was just trying to get some water. Like, oh, came Zombie Patch.
Oh
yeah, he goes up to the crowd and says, let me try that again. Didn't quite come off the first time.
God. Oh, okay. Oh my God. All right. Okay.
It's never too soon with Sam Patch.
No. Oh my God. Okay. Zombified or not? All right. He was buried in the Charlotte Cemetery, but his legend still kept growing. Plays again were written about him, children's storybooks, including one that showed his last jump. Andrew Jackson named his horse Sam Patch.
That's a bit fateful.
Oh. On the 20th century, anyone who tried to be a daredevil was called the next Sam Patch.
Oh, no.
And even some ministers used his death to chastise people who glorified any thrill seekers. Really, they blamed the people for his death.
Especially on certain dates of the year.
Yeah. So we're going to finish off Sam with another poem.
I think Sam fairly well finished off himself. Bear first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the bear did survive, remember? The bear did survive. Okay.
Well, what became of the bear?
I don't know. No one mentioned what happened to the poor bear. Well, here's the last poem. Poor Samuel Patch, a man once world-renowned, much loved the water, and by it was drowned. He sought fame, and as he reached to pluck it, he lost his ballast and kicked the bucket.
Boom.
Oh, so yeah, I think your assumption about Sam Patch would be right. If he was alive today, he'd be this guy on YouTube with a GoPro recording his jumps.
He'd have it on him while he was jumping.
Yeah.
Wow, what a spectacle.
Yeah. As high jumps go, there was a guy who did that, kind of interstellar jump. He had to be in that special suit a couple years ago, and he leapt from just outside the atmosphere or just below. It was an amazing jump. Okay. I don't know if it was really just outside the atmosphere, but it was the highest jump ever. And he had to wear a special pressurized suit.
Oh yeah.
And oxygen because he was so high up. So his record definitely has been beat. And that guy was wearing a GoPro too, by the way.
Right. Well, so many other people since Sam Patch, yes, have attempted the falls, and many have. Yeah. Many have developed devices. Well, that wish to jump in.
I guess.
And just kind of float over the edge and then fall.
I guess from now, you're supposed to have a device when you go over. I have a list here. Here we go. Of people.
I think some kind of ball.
Usually they go in a barrel. I'm making air quotes. Right. Okay. Let's see here. Here's a list of people who've gone over Niagara Falls. Of course, October 1829, Sam Patch. Bobby Leach did his barrel trip over Niagara Falls in 1911. October 24th, 1901, 63-year-old Michigan school teacher Annie Edison Taylor became the first person to go over the falls in a barrel as a publicity stunt. She survived bleeding, but otherwise unharmed, and after exiting the barrel, she said no one should ever do that again. She was the one who put her cat in the barrel first and sent the barrel over with her cat in it. So like I said, what is this with throwing your pets over the falls first? Oh my goodness. Since her ride, 14 people have intentionally gone over the falls or in a device despite her advice, and some have survived, others have drowned or been severely injured. And survivors face charges and stiff fines. It is still illegal on both sides of the border.
Are they stiff as Sam Patch?
Well, Sam Patch was invited. I think he was like the only one who was invited to do it. So,
speaking of the state he was found.
Oh my God. Englishman Captain Matthew Webb was the first man to swim the English Channel, but he drowned in 1883 trying to swim the rapids downstream from the falls. Okay, so it's not just the falls that will kill you. This one was an unintentional one and pretty scary. On July 9th, 1960, a 7-year-old American boy was swept over Horseshoe Falls, protected only by a life vest.
Oh, and when was this again?
In 1960.
Oh, okay.
Okay, two tourists got his sister from the river. He went over the falls at Goat Island. He was then plucked from the pool beneath after grabbing a life ring thrown from him by the crew of the Maid of the Mist. So that kid was damn lucky. I mean... Yeah,
exactly, because there's a tremendous amount of suction created at the bottom of a falls with tremendous undertows. And you always see signs next to any sort of falls of any sort of size that no swimming.
And people always do, which is ridiculous.
Because this is what might happen to you. There are rock formations under there that have been worn away by the falls, and you could get sucked underneath one of those and never escape.
Yeah. And there's a falls up in Minnesota that if you accidentally fall into it, you're pretty much gone. Yeah. It's a grinder. Anything that goes into it, it totally demolishes it. In Finnish folklore, that's the falls that are near the river of Dead. And there's a swan that swims very close to it, but if you hit those rapids or those falls, depending on which translation you read, you're pretty much ground up and gone.
Hamburger.
Yeah, you're hamburger. So that's why it's on the River Dead. I mean, you're gonna...
Is that how one of the Finnish figures in the Kalevala legend was dismembered?
Lemminkäinen. Lemminkäinen was, yeah.
And then his goddess mother pieced him back together again?
Yeah, the full story is he was out in a battle. He was kind of a, let's put this
kind of a roister.
Yeah, if they made a movie about him, Jason Momoa would play him. He's trying to make him as Finnish looking as possible, but that really bombastic attitude. And then he's out in this battle, which his mother and his wife asked him not to go into, and he's basically like, I won't go into the whole hairbrush thing because that's just weird. But anyway, basically he goes against their wishes and goes into this battle, and this little whippersnapper of a shepherd stabs him in the leg, and that's what kills him. And he falls into the River of Death. His mom finds out. She goes to the River of Death, basically asks all these gods and goddesses to help her, and there's this rake made of lightning, and it's just, there's these honey from these special bees, and she rakes his body out of the river, puts it back together with the honey from these bees, and then he's brought back to life, and you never really hear from him again. He basically goes back and lives with mom and his wife, and he's pretty much done. So at that point,
adventuring days over.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I died. I think I should have listened to him.
After you're fished out of the river of death with a lightning rake and stuck together with magic honey.
Yes.
Now okay, that brings to mind that song from Amorphous about the bees making their honey in the skulls of kings.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the magic honey comes from. That's such a colorful, such colorful legends out of the Kalevala.
Oh, I love
It's
the
no
Kalevala.
wonder Tolkien, took his, entire trilogy, basically.
Some of the Elfish is Finnish, basically. He just altered Finnish very slightly. And there are stories in not so much Lord of the Rings, but in like the Book of Lost Tales and some of his other footnote works, I don't know what you call them, that were his retelling of these stories in the Kalevala. I know we're off topic, but...
No, just one of the many rabbit holes we go down here on Unearthly Upstate. I hope you enjoyed it.
I know we went off topic there, but people who know me know I love Amorphous, they know I love Korpikani, they know I love all things Finnish. I'm not Finnish. And yes, I've read the Kalevala like 7-8 times by now, so...
I gifted you a volume of the Kalevala.
Yes, you did. It was very good. So we may discuss this again.
Absolutely.
And if anybody has a little more knowledge on it than I do, and you need to correct me, please do, because I'm still learning.
Not so many ghost stories out of the Kalevala, but many legends, right?
I don't know if you could call them like the same type of ghost stories that we tell. I mean.
Well, it's out of Finnish culture, so their storytelling it takes a different angle. Than other Western cultures. Okay,
their storytelling traditionally is like the Song of Hiawatha. It's done in that rhythm. But it is a different type of storytelling.
And if you get curious about anything discussed on this program, please look it up for yourself, find out.
But actually, it is kind of appropriate to talk about because there's a lot of falls and rapids into their mythology, and we're talking about falls and rapids. So, but I'm going to go back to some of these other people who went over Niagara successfully and unsuccessfully. Okay. And then when we have on July 2nd, 1984, Carol Suchek from Hamilton, Ontario, plunged over Horseshoe Falls in a barrel with only minor injuries, fined $500 performing the stunt without a license, but then in 1985, he was fatally injured while trying to recreate the drop in the Houston Astrodome. He was supposed to climb into a barrel, and the barrel was going to be dropped into a water tank, but it released prematurely, and he hit the side of the tank instead of going cleanly in. And
exactly the kind of spectacle the thrill seekers who buy the ticket, are looking for.
Right, exactly.
They're looking for the magic assistant to get drowned in the dunk tank. They're looking for, the horse to hit the side of the tank. When jumping off of the springboard, that sort of thing.
Well, there's a guy named Steve Trotter, also from Rhode Island, beat Sam Patch's record. He went over 3 times, but he went over the barrel. August 1985, Steve Trotter became the youngest person ever, age 22, same age as Sam Patch at the time. And the first American in 25 years to go over the falls in a barrel. 10 years later, he went over the falls again, becoming the second person ever to go to the falls twice. And then it was also the second ever duo. Lori Martin joined Trotter for the barrel ride over the falls. They survived the fall, but the barrel became stuck at the bottom of the falls, requiring a rescue. It's like you were saying, you can get stuck in the... There was another duo that went over, Peter DiBernardi and Jeffrey James Pekovic. This happened in 1989. They were the first team to make it over the falls in a 2-person barrel. They were trying to discourage youth from following his path of addictive drug use. I don't see the connection, but okay. They did emerge shortly after going with minor injuries, and they also were charged with performing an illegal stunt.
That begs the question, which is a legal stunt?
Yeah. In 1990, Jesse Sharp, a whitewater canoeist from Tennessee, paddled over the falls in a closed-deck canoe. He neglected to wear a helmet to make his face more visible to photographs. He also did not wear a life vest because he believed it would hinder his escape. His body was never found. In 1993, John David Mundy of Castor Center, Ontario, completed his second journey over the falls.
They do it once, but twice.
Oh, yeah. 1995, Robert Douglas Overracker. Love that. Say his name.
Firecracker, sis, boom, bust.
Robert Douglas Firecracker Overracker. I love that name. Anyway, he went over the falls on a jet ski to raise awareness for the homelessness. His rocket-propelled parachute failed to open, and he plunged to his death. On October 20th, 2003, Kurt Jones of Canton, Michigan, was the first person to survive a plunge with no flotation device. He attempted to commit suicide, survived the 16-story fall with only battered ribs, scrapes, and bruises. He died in another attempt to go over the falls in an inflatable ball in 2017. Jeez.
Inflatable ball. Inside the inflatable ball.
Yes.
Not outside.
The second person to survive an unprotected trip over Horseshoe Falls was not named, but it happened in 2009. He suffered severe hypothermia and a large wound to his head. Eyewitnesses report the man intentionally went in the water, so it was probably another suicide attempt, probably. And the last person listed here was 2012. Another unidentified man in his early 40s became the third person to survive an unprotected trip over the falls. He deliberately jumped into the Niagara River. But I don't know what attraction is in jumping in these falls. I mean, I see cliff jumpers that jump into the ocean, and to me that's dangerous enough, but if you know the area below that cliff is deep enough to take your plunge, that's a heck of a lot safer than the falls. Because you don't have to deal with churning water as much as the falls, you know.
At worst, you're going to get plastered. At best, you're going to wind up with a cut, bruised, broken up body, and possibly a severed spine, and who knows, what else. Yeah, accruing so many head injuries, you lose your faculties.
Well, my point is the water usually is calmer when they do those cliff jumps into the ocean. You know, the plunge pool under the falls, that is insanity to me, because it's just so chaotic down there.
It's psychotic to me.
I mean, I can see why it was entertainment, especially in the early 1800s. What else do you do for entertainment?
Well, that was... what were the choices? What were the big choices of entertainment back in the 1820s, you know? They didn't have a transistor radio. I mean, simple, the simple forms of entertainment that we take for granted nowadays were not even in existence. In existence, basically, all you had were books and theater. For entertainment or games
and music. People would come, but
so there are a few things there, and people enjoyed pugilism, that sort of thing.
Well, and public executions were still going on.
Yeah, precious little entertainment.
There's a few hangings, and
that to me is just repugnant.
Yeah, there's a few hangings we'll be discussing later.
Gathering together in a group as entertainment to watch someone die.
Yeah,
that's.
We still got daredevils, and although they're more plain.
We still do.
We
still have people who swim.
Yeah.
The English Channel, that sort of thing. We have people who come out with their leg operated gyrocopters, and fly over the English Channel in that. There are people who. Oh yes, I remember back in I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. Where the first person to build a glider on a athlete operated glider, because you had to be an athlete, and you had to be pretty lean to run this thing, and it was geared in such a way they had it all the science figured out, and it was made of this clear plastic and everything lighter. As light as they could get it, and they pedaled that little glider across the English Channel over to France.
Oh yeah!
And I remember that, but that's another thing to look up. I don't have it in my memory banks right now.
Yeah, but so
who exactly that was.
But it's amazing.
But things like that continue.
Yeah.
To do.
It's amazing how fast he became a celebrity too.
Think of how crazy Lindbergh looked.
Oh my God!
When he hopped into the Spirit of St. Louis, or Amelia Earhart. Oh my goodness sakes! What are these people doing? They're taking chances with their lives.
There's another one where people still swear they see her. She's. Yeah. But I mean, with Sam Patch here, think how quickly he rose to celebrity. If you read these old newspapers, they're not exactly Johnny on the spot like we expect now. At least within 24 hours to report the news. Sometimes it would take up to 3 or 4 days for them to get the dispatches to report it.
Yeah. There's some development there.
There, but they were still sharing all this information. And like I put in that aside earlier, Sam Patch wrote that piece of advertising for himself and sent it to all the newspapers in the area.
Was Morris still in its early stages at this point? Or wasn't it even a thing as a
telegraph?
Yeah, telegraphs and things like that. But the principal way of transmitting information would be magazines and news articles. I think that was the principal method of sharing information back then.
It always helps to have Google by your side. No, I don't want the creator. Mm-hmm. Well, it'll let me know.
Please.
Okay, the telegraph was developed in 1809 in Bavaria by a man named Sommering. His device was crude and required decoding a message by the means of electrolysis? Wow. In 1828, Harrison Dyer created a telegraph which would burn holes in special paper by means of electric arc. Technology was there, but not
wide use.
No, yeah, it wasn't even in the 1830s because that's when they said America started to bring it up. So,
but during the American Civil War, the telegraph, you're talking early 1860s.
Yeah.
The telegraph was used quite extensively to transmit information.
So you can see why it took a while for the newspapers to get
news.
Yeah. But he still made huge news. I mean, they put Sam Patch in the newspaper. It was big news. Well, no, I will say this. I didn't see any of his articles about him on the first page, but at least was on the second or third page.
Right.
And
where such things belonged.
Yeah.
Because front page news were things like politics and the latest murder.
But it was interesting. I mean, just how people just loved him, and they just ate up stories about him. Like I said, if he was alive today, he'd be on YouTube filming his stunts. Probably doing live streams of the more dangerous ones, and I don't think he would go
there are higher falls than Niagara.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There are higher falls in New York than Niagara.
Yeah.
And people forget that.
But Niagara was the most publicly visible.
Yes. It is beautiful. And there was a lot of experiments there.
And being
done with electricity there and everything. So
being on Lake Ontario, there's also the chance that you might capture an international audience there.
And there are higher falls in New York. There are bigger falls, but they're not as tall. They're just wider, So it's surprising how many waterfalls are in New York, actually.
Okay, so if Sam Patch approached his latest jump sober, he might have went on to go on to one of those higher falls. To do it.
When I first was reading how he passed away, I really thought he maybe had a muscle spasm as he jumped. Or he tried to correct himself in mid-jump.
Right.
Because most people said he would jump and he was pretty straight going into the water. And this was the only one where they saw him actively change his course.
Now, would he go head first,
I've read both ways. Some falls he went feet first, some falls he went head first in. So I'm not sure which way he was trying to go in the falls here, but he landed on his side. He landed on his side when he hit the water. Not what you want to do when you go into water.
Absolutely not. The force of that, it'd be like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah, they say hitting water at a certain point, if you hit it wrong, is like hitting concrete. So we don't have any ghost tropes with this, because even though people cited him after, died in the falls, no one ever said it was his ghost. And
for a year, people cited Sam Patch around all over the nation.
Yeah.
Which, consisted of coast to coast at this point. This is the period of expansion.
Yeah.
Where they were going out to the west coast and north and south. So, anybody out there who knew who Sam Patch was and all.
Well, just think he was doing this so close to Canada, the Canadians were probably seeing him too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had Sam Patch with Sam Patch was having breakfast next to me in the cafe this morning, that sort of thing.
So I was down at the cafe the other day. Love you, Letterkenny. Anyway, Allegedly. So there's really nothing supernatural with Sam Patch, but it's such one of these.
It's Elvis territory type
It's
stuff.
such one of these oddball facets of history that you just gotta love it. It gives you a nice snapshot into what the public was doing at that time. And really we haven't changed much.
No,
the
technology has changed.
Yeah,
the way we share information, this kind of information has changed, but the thrill seeking is basically the same. people
I go
pull
on
these stunts for very much the same.
I think we're going to wrap up. Our producers are being twerps, both of them. So, well, that was Sam Patch, everyone, and I hope you had a great time listening to this.
Thank you very much for listening to this edition of Unearthly Upstate's Ghastly Podcast Extra.
Yeah, and please like, share, and tell your friends, and if you're not on Patreon and you're hearing this, why aren't you?
There's no mistaking Unearthly Upstate.
Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, and Google Podcasts. Please like, share, and review, and if you really like us, tell your friends. Unearthly Upstate is an Animated Lyre Media production. The show is produced by Matt and Mari Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing done by Mari Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Unless stated otherwise in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast have not paid or contacted us for any type of promotion. And please check out our webpage for full credit and sources for the episodes.